I am excited to introduce you to Trenton Tai, Senior YOLO Engineer. And I'll be joining Trenton for Q&A to pose all of your thoughtful questions. So please do send in your questions during the presentation. And if you didn't hear it in the housekeeping video at the beginning, there's actually a $50 Best Question gift card for each session. So not only will you get to add to the conversation today, but you may also get lucky and take home a prize. And so with that, Trenton, if you are ready, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share one of my monitors here. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, looking good, looking good.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'm here from ControlUp. I'm here to talk to you about how our solution can help you in your organization, especially with regards to the digital experience, or DEX, as was introduced earlier. So myself, I'll put my face to the name because we're not doing video. So this is me. I'm Trenton Tai. I work in technical marketing for ControlUp. And I want to start by talking about some of the challenges that businesses face as they're growing. And as you build your business, operational efficiencies will start to appear. You might have started with staff traveling to client sites using pen and paper to record orders or deliver invoices or things of that nature. And then eventually someone says, we can do this better. And you find that technology is a great driver of those operational efficiencies. You can now deliver applications quickly and securely to your staff, so now they can work from anywhere efficiently. The speed upon which you conduct business skyrockets once you start to adopt technology. And that brings us to DEX. So the digital employee experience, aka DEX. So DEX is how we interface with technology. Going back to the 1970s, we were using terminals connected to mainframes. In the 1980s, we got mini computers and the graphical user interface. In the 1990s, we got laptops. And in the 20aughts, we got smartphones. And in the last decade or so, it's been an explosion of wearable devices. How we interact with these devices is what we call DEX. But with that technology comes some complexity. Different moving parts can start to impact how efficient you can be, and suddenly technology might be the thing slowing down your organization or your operations. So the stark reality is that we in IT have work to do. Less than a third of employees believe that the technology their company provides is working effectively. There's a disconnect between what employees experience daily and what businesses and executives understand about the technology their people use to do their jobs. Does this resonate with your experiences as an organization? Issues reported, slow logons, data loss or corruption, hardware failures, just to name a few. And unfortunately, that's the data that's just actually reported. And these issues add up in real dollars, resulting in 2.7 hours of lost productivity per employee per week. And that tends to be about $4,000 or so per employee per year. Now, the way that people operate is usually when they run into something, they'll actually go and find a colleague or two and ask them for help. So what you're actually effectively occurring is that you're actually bringing two resources down and you're doubling or tripling those costs as people are trying to get their problems solved. So technology's effectiveness really hinges on the synergy between the optimized processes and the skilled individuals that drive its implementation. But you can't fix what you can't see. Businesses need better visibility and the right context to improve in this arena. At ControlUp, we are the tool to provide you that visibility. And that's why we built ControlUp. It's a company born out of a desire to help IT provide better visibility into the technology running its business. We empower IT to focus on elevation, not escalation. We help them by equipping them with actionable, true AI-driven insights and proactive remediation tools. And our technology's true power lies in our ability to propel business forward and empower employees and enhance the customer experiences. So with that, we'll look at our ControlUp DEX platform. So what separates us is that we have true real-time visibility. So we're looking at metrics every 3 seconds or so. We've got automated remediation, and we work across any desktop, whether it's Mac, Linux, Windows, across any application, whether it's local or a published app or a published desktop, and we work anywhere. So our software works whether you're remote, working from home, or whether you're in the office. And how do we make all this possible? Well, our problem is for solving some of the most complex IT problems that are out there today. Our philosophy and approach to solving these problems is pretty simple. It is collect, connect, and correct. So by collect, we mean we collect the data. We do this by collecting the data with real-time data collection every 3 seconds. So that tends to be about 20 times faster than anyone else in the industry. We have end-to-end visibility by looking at the data not only on the infrastructure, but also on the desktop. And then we continuously monitor the metrics that matter. And then we take that data and we connect the dots. We have AI-powered detection and analysis of the data that we have. We have smart prioritization and experience scoring, and we do actionable insights where we provide you with information that you can actually use to solve a problem as opposed to just stare at it. And then lastly, we provide you the tools to correct the course in this case. So we can do automated and proactive issue resolution. So we can actually do point in time, or we can actually say, hey, if these set of metrics hit this particular threshold, let's execute this action to solve the problem. We can optimize IT performance and spend by assisting you in your cloud world, by powering off resources as they're unneeded, things of that nature. And we can reduce the risk and increase compliance with our security posturing tool within your organization. So with that, I want to dive into how the software actually works and give you a demo of it. Let me switch over. Okay. So what we're looking at here now, and I'm going to show you 3 different parts of our product, but we have much more in scope. I can't show everything of it today, but I'll show you 3 of the important parts that contribute to your DEX score. So what we're looking at right now is our VDI infrastructure, or our published apps infrastructure. So this is an overview of what we see when we're looking at the real-time data of how your infrastructure is operating. You can see metrics are updating on the fly. So we monitor those metrics every 7 seconds. Within the web-based UI here, we update them every 7, but we monitor them every 3. So I'm switching over to the details tab now, and I'm just going to click on the host here. You can see up at the top, we have the topology bar. This shows you all the resources in your environment. Underneath, we have the summary widgets that show you essentially just some high-level information as to what you're looking at for all the resources underneath. And these are the individual resources with the real-time data being updated on the fly. So I can see here I've actually got one particular host. It's a Nutanix host. It's running AHV, and I can see it's under a critical stress level. As I hover over top, I can actually see the metrics being called out, telling me why it's saying it's under some level of stress. So I can see that CPU utilization is high, but there's also a data store read and write issue. So as I scroll to the right, I can see more of our metrics, and I can see, they're color coded. So green is good, red is bad, yellow is maybe some investigation going on. So with this particular one, I want to investigate his data store issue. So I can click these little arrows here, and this allows us to now contextually focus on what we're troubleshooting. So because I clicked on arrows around a disk-related metric, we can see down at the bottom here, there's a little blue bar here. That's what it's done is it's taken all of our disk-related metrics and put them in the front. So now you don't have to go hunting for maybe what might be affecting you and your organization or the performance of the particular resources that we're looking at. Up top, we can see the focus has changed. All of a sudden, all of that noise that was around us is now being removed. And we now have the ability to focus just on the machines on that one host. And here we can see we've got one particular machine that looks like he's having the data store issue. So I can do some remediation action. I can right click on this machine, and I can actually reboot the machine, shut it down, do whatever I need to do to resolve the issue. But in reality, that may not resolve it. If we reboot it, it might come back up and we might have the same issue. So what we want to do is we want to troubleshoot further. And what we can do is we can click these arrows again. And now we can see the topology bar has changed. Instead of saying we're looking at 8 VMs, we're just looking at 1, and we could see the resources underneath. So I'm going to focus on the user session resources. And so I can see I've got one user logged on here. And sure enough, we're still focused by the disk-related metrics. And we can see that he's got the data store read-write issue for this particular user in his session. So what I can do is I can right click on this guy, and I can remote control. I can send him a message. I can take a screenshot of the machine. All this is controlled through role-based access control. So you can lock it down so only tier 4 people have access, or you can make it so it requires user consent, so on and so forth. So I could also log this user off, things of that nature. I still don't know why he's having the issue, though, what's going on here. So I can still drill down further. So what I can do is if I click these arrows, we'll see that it'll focus on his user session and the number of processes will drop. So again, boom, we're getting rid of all the noise related to the troubleshooting journey that we're on. So now that we only have 25 processes, we can go ahead and click on it. And we can see he's got one process called dynamo.exe that's actually consuming all of that CPU. Or all those disk metrics. So as I scroll to the right, I can see we get a whole bunch of metadata that I can use to assist in my troubleshooting journey. I can see it's by a company called Intel. I can see it's called IOmeter. I can Google it. I can find that, hey, it's actually a disk testing utility. So potentially this guy was testing something with our infrastructure to maybe find out how it performs. So what I can do here is I can do a process level action now, where I can actually end the process, kill the process, or do whatever remediation action I need to do directly from ControlUp. So this is an example of the real-time troubleshooting journey that we can go on for your VDI infrastructure. Now, lots of people work from home, and one of the challenges with working from home is we went from having 3 offices that you might have to now 30,000 offices that you might have with all these individual users. And one of the challenges there is getting that visibility to that home network. So what we have is we have this technology called Remote DX, and what it allows us to do is it actually allows us to peer into someone's home network as long as they're connected to your resources. So this isn't an agent. It's great for BYOD or standalone devices or users who just want to use their home computer to connect into your resources. And here's what it looks like. So once we install this on the machine, this extension to the Citrix, Horizon, or Microsoft remote desktop client, this is the information we get. So we can see this is their device here. Their first hop is 1 millisecond, so that means their home network is pretty good. This next hop is the ISP. So my ISP isn't reporting latency, but that's okay. We can see right after the ISP, my latency increases substantially. I go from 1 millisecond to 220 or 476 to the session. So now at this point, I can start saying, hey, the issue doesn't look like it's with my home network. It looks like it's with my ISP. So now I can phone my ISP, say, hey, I'm having some network issues. This is what I'm seeing. And then they can start taking some corrective action here. If we wanted to see how this device was performing over time, if this is added to our EdgeDX product, then what we can do is we can click on this and we can go straight to the physical endpoint itself. And so this allows us to actually look at the physical device and how it's performing. And sure enough, what do I see? I see that our network latency all of a sudden had a massive spike just a little while ago. So it looks like the issue with my ISP has happened just over the last hour or so, last 2 hours. So now I can start actually giving some actionable information to do that troubleshooting. If I wanted to with this user as well through our ControlUp EdgeDX, I can do remote control, remote shell, so I can shadow this user to help assist them with whatever issues that they may have in their environment. So really, really cool stuff we have here. And what we do with all this data now is we can take the virtual desktop and who's connecting in, and we can look at their physical desktop and how they're using that piece of technology, and we can do what we call the DEX score. So this is our digital employee experience score. We can take this data and aggregate it into a display like this. So now you can actually see the performance of how your users are interacting with technology over time. So I can let's look at last month. We can see, our scores go up and down depending on what users are doing. We look at whether or not there's application crashes that might be impacting their ability to do work. And we can look at whether or not the system has crashed. And then as well, if we wanted to drill down further and actually understand why these users are having issues with their DEX-related score, we can actually click into the details tab here and we can get a listing and it'll tell us the most common problem that affected their DEX score. So what we have is we have these formulas that are built into the product, but you can tune and tweak them for however your organization needs are in order to make sure that you can actually see. So we have one user here who was having an issue with their VDI environment, and most other issues are related to CPU. So potentially their devices aren't powerful enough for the work that they're trying to do. We can see there's different applications that are being used that was contributing to that CPU load. And then as well, we can see if there's application crashes. So if there's lots of application crashes that are contributing to a poor experience, we track that as well. And so now we can go investigate with that particular user on that particular device to improve their digital experience and how they're able to work more effectively. So let me switch back now. Great. So How the ControlUp DEX platform works, kind of what I showed with that little demo there, is that we've got our VDI and DAS infrastructure. So ControlUp monitors all of that information. We've got our physical endpoints. So ControlUp monitors and can take remediation action to both of these components. As well, we do applications. I don't have enough time to show everything here, but we can also do right down to the application level, whether it's a SaaS-based application, whether it's unified communication. So we monitor Teams and Zoom, as well, both as a call is going on with our live callers view, and then as well historically. So we can look at the performance of their calls through those technologies. And then we also look at the endpoint security posture. We look at whether or not a device is up to date, whether applications require updates, and things of that nature. And we can actually do remediation on that. We bring all of that together to bring the digital employee experience as part of our holistic solution here. So you're in great company. Nearly 2,000 customers across the globe trust ControlUp's vision and strategy to help deliver on the promise of a superior digital employee experience with true real-time visibility, actionable AI-driven insights, and automated remediation actions across any desktop, any application, anywhere. We're proud to have over 5 million seats under our management today, executing over 10 million automated remediation actions per week. Our platform has a super strong following with an army of over 6,500 ControlUp certified experts, users, advocates, and partners all around the world. And because of that, the most active EUC and DEX Select channel was born. It's a vibrant online community. You can join it if you want to learn more about ControlUp in order to create a human-centric digital experience that can help accelerate your business outcomes. And with that, I think that might be my time. So I want to just say thank you, and I can look at the questions if there's any.
Yeah, for sure. We've got some great questions for you here. Let me just throw up a poll quickly to make sure people can answer that while we have the Q&A. So if any of you really loved what you heard so far with ControlUp and you would like some additional information, feel free to answer this poll here about what you're looking for. Is it a data sheet, white paper, pricing details, personal demo? And the team from ControlUp will reach out after today's EcoCast and get you any information you're looking for. And with that, so Trenton, I've got a couple of questions, actually quite a few, so I'm going to see how many we can get through. First one here, just because it seemed topical on near the end of the presentation, was asking how exactly do you monitor Zoom or Teams when you're doing this?
Yeah, so great question. What we do is that's part of our Edge DX agent. So we can connect into both Zoom and Teams, the organization that you have through your accounts, and we can pull data that way. So that works for after the calls are completed. So that's one way that we can track all the calls. Another way that we can do calls is we have an agent that we install on those physical endpoints. That's our Edge DX product, and it will read the data sources of Zoom and Teams as a call is ongoing. And every minute it'll bring that information into us so we can see the calls live as of a minute ago, so near real time. So that's how we can pull that information.
Okay, excellent. And similar question here, or maybe a good follow-up, is how quickly is data collected and kind of put into the platform?
Yeah, so real-time data is every 3 seconds. So we're collecting data every 3 seconds, both the physical endpoints and the virtual desktop infrastructure. There are certain technologies that have longer cadence times, like VMware ESXi only does metrics every 20 seconds, so we do it at the 20-second mark. But if we can go down to 3 seconds, that's as quickly as we do it. And then we aggregate the data, and every 5 minutes it gets sent to our historical monitoring, our historical reporting part. So the lag between when things are in our historical reports and the real-time data is about 5 minutes.
Okay, wow. So pretty speedy. And I've got a question here about DEX score. How can you tell what's hurting your DEX score as you go in the platform?
Yeah, so I showed a demo of that. What we do is we can create these little formulas, or you can create them as an organization yourself, about how you think the metrics should look. And once that metric gets exceeded on its threshold, it starts impacting the DEX score, and you can assign a weight or a value to it. So you can decide that maybe CPU doesn't hurt it as much because CPU is always high. But if memory starts going really high, that will be a real big negative, or if Wi-Fi signal strength is bad, or if latency is high, things of that nature. So you can tune the values however you want. So your DEX score can be calculated on an organizational basis, or you can just use our out-of-box ones, which looks mostly at CPU and memory and user input delay. So that's how quickly the user interface refreshes.
Gotcha. Okay, nice. Okay, I have a question here about measuring ROI. So Edward asks, how do you quantify the return on investment of implementing DEX, DAS, and VDI tools for your distributed workforce, considering both tangible productivity gains and intangible benefits like employee satisfaction and retention?
Yeah, so we have the ability to send out user sentiment surveys as well. So we can take a polling of your users as they're using technology every day. And if they respond that, technology wasn't very good today, so we can track that over time. And then as time moves forward, as you're implementing your changes, you should start to see that score go up. So we can do it through both user sentiment, how people think they're experiencing technology, and then we can do it both through the metrics itself, what we actually see from the technical side. When it comes to the return on investment and understanding what that might look like, that's something that we can work through with a POC. So usually we identify some of those issues that are happening in your environment, and we start looking at how we can either resolve those issues through automated methods, and then we can look at how much time you've spent resolving those tickets. And then essentially that time saved can get fed back into you so you can understand your ROI.
Very nice. Okay, next question here is, what are some best practices for onboarding and training new employees who'll be working remotely, and how can we use DEX, DAS, VDI tools to streamline the process?
Yeah. So for us, the most important part there is getting our agent installed on those devices. So those would be corporate devices. So if you have a corporate device and you're using like Windows Autopilot or things of that nature, we plug into Intune, where our agent can then get pushed out to the device once they log into it. So if you send a home worker device and they plug in their Autopilot information or their email address or whatever, it connects into your org, downloads that, installs our agent, immediately we can start getting those insights. So as soon as our agent's deployed, within a minute or so, it gets shown into our dashboard. And then from there, you can start evaluating what their experience is like.
Awesome. And yeah, I think there's a little bit on that question and one other that we're kind of asking about, like, what's the role of user experience and how do you guys use UX in terms of carrying that over the finish line with the end users or employees?
Yeah, so a lot of it is organizational based. Organizations need to make a determination as to how they want to measure their experience. So we provide that out of the box so you can take a high level look and then tweak the knobs as you need. Some organizations, like I was kind of saying in the demo, will have different needs. Some will identify that CPU is always high because the applications they use consume a lot of CPU for whatever task that they're doing. So that's not really a fair metric to say that if CPU is high, that the employee is having a degraded digital experience. So we also look at real user experience metrics. One that Microsoft provides for Windows is called user input delay. And it essentially measures the interactivity of an application. So as you move your mouse up and down a field and that highlight field is changing, it will actually measure how long that took to actually do. So we read that metric and we can set thresholds on it. So we can say if an application froze because it's bringing up a print dialog connecting to a network printer for 5 seconds or so, we can identify that, hey, when that activity occurred, there was a 5-second delay, and that's going to hurt your employee experience because most things you want is exceptionally low latency if you can make it happen. People want things to be instant. And once you start exceeding about 400 milliseconds of user interactivity, performance really starts to degrade for users. So I believe that was a study done by IBM back in the 70s or so, but it was a really interesting one. Anyway, so that's the threshold we use as well.
Amazing. I love that. 400 milliseconds. I find that in my own behavior where I'm like, if something takes, just a split second longer than it usually does, I'm like, is it even working? Do I just shut the app right now? Like, so
you start clicking 2 or 3 times. Yeah,
totally. Like, it's amazing how short that time is before you start to feel like fed up and frustrated. So it's cool that 400 milliseconds is kind of the threshold there. Awesome. Okay, I think that's all the time we have for questions, but is there any final remark, any final call to action that you'd like to give the audience, or if anyone's looking to get started right away, where you want to point them in terms of where to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the more intriguing things about our product is we don't gate it. So we don't require a sales call. We of course recommend it for organizations of any size. But if you're a techie who just wants to get started, who wants to play with technology, you can just go to controlup.com and you can sign up for the Edge DX product. We do 50 free devices. So you can start with adding just a few devices into an Edge DX tenant for the physical device monitoring. And for the VDI monitoring or the infrastructure monitoring, you go to our website, and I think you just put in an email address, and then you can start downloading our software and playing with it. We've got quick start guides in the academy within ControlUp to help you onboard as quickly as possible with self-led training if you want. So absolutely, if you're like me and a bit of an introvert and you like to play with things before you hop on a call with somebody, we provide you that capability. And I think that's kind of unique within our space.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here. Thanks for answering all those questions, and I hope to see you again soon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Take care.